The U.S. Endeavour, a state-of-the-art human exploration vessel, emerged from the swirling vortex of a newly discovered wormhole, its sleek, silver hull gleaming in the light of an unfamiliar binary star system. Captain James Prescott gripped the arms of his command chair, his knuckles turning white as he stared intently at the view screen. "Status report," he ordered, his voice betraying a hint of trepidation. This was uncharted territory, far beyond the farthest reaches of human space exploration. "All systems nominal, Captain," his first officer, Commander Olivia Hernandez, replied calmly. "Sensors are detecting a Class M planet approximately 3.2 light-years from our current position. Preliminary scans indicate the presence of an advanced, spacefaring civilization." Prescott nodded thoughtfully. "Initiate first contact protocols. Let's see if we can establish communication with these people." The comm officer, Lieutenant Jack Rayleigh, got to work, broadcasting a series of hailing frequencies in the hope of reaching the alien civilization. After several tense minutes, a response crackled to life on the bridge's speakers. "Greetings, unknown vessel," a resonant, alien voice spoke. "You have entered our sovereign space. Identify yourselves." Prescott exchanged a glance with Hernandez before responding. "I am Captain James Prescott of the United Planetary Alliance Starship Endeavour. We mean you no harm. We come in peace, seeking peaceful contact and cooperation." There was a brief pause before the alien voice replied. "Captain Prescott, we welcome you and your crew to our domain. I am Psyloth, leader of the Taxotherian Collective. We have been aware of your species for some time, and we are intrigued by your presence in our territory." Prescott let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "That's a relief to hear, Xyloth. We're an exploratory vessel, tasked with seeking out new civilizations and establishing diplomatic ties. If you're amenable, we'd be honored to meet with you and discuss the possibility of an alliance between our peoples." "That is most agreeable, Captain," Xyloth responded. "Please prepare your vessel for transit to our homeworld. We look forward to welcoming you and your crew." Moments later, a shimmering beam of light enveloped the Endeavour, and the starship vanished in a flash, whisked away towards the alien homeworld. As the Endeavour emerged from the transport beam, the bridge crew gazed in awe at the sight before them. The alien homeworld was a breathtaking vision. A lush, verdant planet with sweeping oceans and towering mountain ranges. Gleaming cities of crystalline spires and intricate geometric structures dotted the landscape, their elegant designs a testament to the Cytherians' advanced technological prowess. Prescott's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Open a channel to Psyloth," he instructed. "We're ready to begin our first formal contact." The alien leader's image materialized on the view screen, his features serene and composed. "Welcome, Captain Prescott, to our homeworld of Cythera. We are honored by your presence, and we hope that this meeting will mark the beginning of a fruitful and lasting alliance between our civilizations." Prescott nodded respectfully. "The honor is ours, Psyloth. My crew and I are eager to learn more about your people and your culture. If you're amenable, we'd be grateful for the opportunity to meet with you and your advisors to discuss the potential for cooperation." "Of course, Captain," Xyloth replied. "We have prepared accommodations for you and your crew. Please feel free to explore our cities and interact with our people. We have much to discuss. But for now, let us simply enjoy the pleasure of each other's company." With that, the view screen went dark, and the Endeavour began its descent towards the planet's surface. As the starship's shuttle pods touched down in a sprawling metropolis, the human crew members disembarked, their eyes wide with wonder and curiosity. Lieutenant Rayleigh, a young and ambitious officer, turned to his friend and colleague, Ensign Emily Nguyen. "Can you believe this, Emily? We're the first humans to make contact with an alien civilization. Just wait until we tell everyone back home." Nguyen nodded, her expression a mix of excitement and apprehension. "I know, Jack. It's incredible, but also a little unnerving. I mean, what if they're not as friendly as they seem? We don't know anything about these Extherians, or what their true intentions are. Riley placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Hey, don't worry. Vyloth seems sincere enough, and the captain knows what he's doing. We're here to establish peaceful relations, remember? Besides, the Extherians have already made it clear that they won't harm humans. We're off limits, apparently. Nguyen let out a nervous laugh. I suppose you're right. Still, I can't shake this feeling that there's more to this than meets the eye. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens next. As the two officers joined their crewmates in exploring the alien city, they couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder and trepidation at the possibilities that lay ahead. Their first encounter with the Extherians had been unexpectedly welcoming. But the true nature of this new alien civilization remained a mystery, one that they were eager, and perhaps a little apprehensive, to unravel. Over the next few days, the crew of the U.S. Endeavour settled into their accommodations on the Extherian homeworld, marveling at the advanced technology and intricate social structures of their alien hosts. Captain Prescott and his senior officers met regularly with Vyloth and his advisors, discussing the possibility of a formal alliance and exchange of knowledge and resources. Meanwhile, the younger crew members, such as Lieutenant Riley and Ensign Nguyen, eagerly explored the alien city, eager to learn as much as they could about Cytherian culture and society. It was during one of these excursions that Riley encountered a particularly intriguing individual, a young, curious Cytherian named Astra. Astra, a promising scientist in her own right, had been tasked with monitoring the human visitors and assisting them in understanding Cytherian customs and traditions. As Riley wandered through a bustling marketplace, he found himself drawn to Astra's infectious enthusiasm and endless curiosity about the human crew. "Lieutenant Riley, is it not?" Astra greeted him, her voice lilting with a melodic cadence. "I must say, your presence here has been the talk of the city. We Cytherians have never had the opportunity to interact with your kind before." Riley flashed her a warm smile. "The pleasure is all ours, Astra. Please, call me Jack. And the feeling is mutual. We're just as fascinated by your people and your world." Astra's large, luminous eyes widened with delight. "Excellent. Then perhaps you would be willing to indulge my own curiosity, Jack. I have so many questions about human society and culture. There is still so much for me to learn." Riley chuckled. "Well, you've certainly come to the right place. I'd be more than happy to share what I know, if you're willing to do the same for me." And so began a lively exchange, with Astra and Riley trading insights and observations about their respective civilizations. Astra marveled at the diversity of human languages, customs, and beliefs, while Riley was captivated by the Extherians' deeply interconnected social structure and their seeming lack of conflict or strife. "It's remarkable how harmonious your society seems to be," Riley remarked, his brow furrowed in thought. "We humans have a long and turbulent history of war, oppression, and social upheaval. How have the Extherians managed to maintain such a peaceful coexistence?" Astra's expression darkened momentarily, a shadow passing over her delicate features. "Ah, yes, the absence of conflict is indeed one of the defining characteristics of our civilization. But it is a peace born of difficult lessons learned in the past." Riley leaned in, his curiosity piqued. "What do you mean? What happened in the Cytherians' history?" Astra hesitated, her gaze darting around the bustling marketplace as if afraid of being overheard. "It is not a tale I am often permitted to share, Jack. But given the trust that has developed between us, I believe you deserve to know the truth." She paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "Long ago, the Extherians were engaged in a devastating war with another alien civilization. The conflict was brutal, and we were on the verge of extinction when something extraordinary happened." Riley listened, rapt, as Astra recounted the Cytherians' darkest chapter, a time when their enemies had specifically targeted human colonies and settlements, committing horrific atrocities that left an indelible mark on the Cytherian psyche. It was only through the intervention of your kind, the humans, that we were able to broker a peace treaty and ultimately survive as a species. Astra explained, her voice tinged with a profound gratitude. Since then, we have held humans in the highest regard, vowing to never again allow harm to come to your people. Riley's mind reeled, trying to process the weight of Astra's revelations. I had no idea, he murmured, his expression grave. No wonder that Exitherians have been so welcoming to us. They see us as saviors, in a sense. Astra nodded solemnly. Indeed, Jack. Humanity's role in our survival is a sacred trust that we hold dear. It is why we have such a deep-seated reverence for your kind, and why we will do anything in our power to protect you. The young lieutenant felt a chill run down his spine, realizing the profound implications of this discovery. As he bid farewell to Astra and returned to the Endeavor, he knew that the bond between humans and Cytherians ran far deeper than mere diplomatic niceties. It was a connection forged in the crucible of war and near extinction, one that would ultimately shape the future of both their civilizations. Over the following days, Captain Prescott and his senior officers continued their diplomatic discussions with Tyloth and the Exitherian leadership, laying the groundwork for a potential alliance between their respective civilizations. The crew of the Endeavor were granted unprecedented access to the Cytherians' advanced technology and scientific knowledge, marveling at the elegance and sophistication of their alien counterparts. However, despite the warm welcome and the abundance of cultural exchange, there was an underlying sense of unease that began to gnaw at the back of Prescott's mind. Something about the Cytherians' unwavering reverence and protectiveness towards humans just didn't sit right with him. It was during a private meeting with Tyloth that the captain decided to address his concerns directly. Tyloth, I must confess that I and my crew have become increasingly curious about the nature of your people's relationship with humanity, Prescott began, carefully choosing his words. Lieutenant Rayleigh has shared with us some intriguing insights into your history and the role that humans played in your survival. But I feel there is still more to the story that we have yet to uncover. The Exitherian leader's expression remained calm and composed, yet Prescott detected a subtle shift in his demeanor. Captain Prescott, I can assure you that our intentions towards your kind are nothing but benevolent. We owe a debt to humanity that can never be fully repaid. Prescott nodded thoughtfully. I understand that, Tyloth, and we're deeply honored by the reverence your people hold for us. But the depth of that reverence is what concerns me. Why are humans so sacrosanct to the Cytherians? What happened in your past that led to such an unwavering policy of non-interference? Tyloth's gaze hardened, just for a moment, before his features softened once more. Captain, the events I am about to share with you are not common knowledge, even among our own people. They are a painful part of our history that we have worked tirelessly to overcome. He paused, taking a deep breath. Long ago, the Exitherians were engaged in a devastating conflict with another alien civilization, one that sought to exterminate us entirely. Their tactics were brutal and unrelenting, and they did not hesitate to target human colonies and settlements in an attempt to demoralize and weaken us. Prescott felt a chill run down his spine as Tyloth continued. The atrocities committed against your people were beyond comprehension. Entire human populations were wiped out, their suffering and anguish fueling the Exitherians' resolve to resist. But just when all seemed lost, a miracle occurred. Tyloth's expression softened, a glimmer of hope shining through. Your kind intervened, Captain. Brave human warriors fought alongside us, and your diplomats brokered a peace treaty that ultimately saved the Cytherian civilization from annihilation. Since that fateful day, we have held humans in the highest regard, vowing to never again allow such horrors to befall your people. Prescott sat in stunned silence, the weight of Tyloth's words settling upon him like a heavy mantle. I had no idea, he murmured, his mind racing with the implications. No wonder that Exitherians have been so protective of us. This explains so much about their behavior and their policies. Tyloth nodded solemnly. Indeed, Captain. Humanity's role in our survival has become a sacred trust that we cherish above all else. It is why we have made the inviolable decision to never, under any circumstances, harm a human being. You are, and will always remain, off-limits to us. Prescott felt a surge of both gratitude and unease. I appreciate your candor, Xylov, and I can only imagine the weight of that burden your people have borne. But tell me, does this mean that the Exetherians will not defend themselves against threats, even if humans may be caught in the crossfire? The Exetherian leader's expression darkened. That, Captain Prescott, is a dilemma we have grappled with for centuries. Our reverence for humanity is absolute, but we cannot simply stand by and allow our civilization to be destroyed. We will do whatever it takes to protect our people, but we will move heaven and earth to ensure that no harm comes to your kind in the process. Prescott nodded slowly, the gravity of the situation settling upon him. I see. Then I suppose our task is to find a way to assist the Exetherians in defending their world, without putting my crew or any other humans at risk. Xylov's eyes widened, a glimmer of hope flickering within. You would be willing to do that, Captain, to stand beside us and fight for our survival. Prescott's lips curled into a determined smile. It's the least we can do, Xylov. After all, you've made it clear that humans are off-limits, and I'll be damned if I let your civilization fall, not after what you've done for us. The two leaders clasped hands, sealing a pact that would forever bind the fates of their respective civilizations. As Prescott returned to the Endeavor, he knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril, but the stakes had never been higher. The very future of humanity itself hung in the balance. In the days that followed Captain Prescott's revelatory conversation with Xylov, the crew of the U.S. Endeavor found themselves immersed in a whirlwind of activity. Working closely with their Exetherian counterparts, they began to uncover the full, harrowing details of the ancient conflict that had nearly destroyed the alien civilization. It was a story of unspeakable brutality, a testament to the depths of cruelty that sentient beings could inflict upon one another. The Exetherians' enemies, a ruthless and expansionist species known as the Voraxians, had ruthlessly targeted human colonies and settlements as part of their campaign to break the Exetherians' will. Entire human populations were wiped out in savage attacks, their suffering and anguish fueling the Voraxians' relentless assault. The Exetherians, forced to watch helplessly as their human allies and protectors were systematically annihilated, were driven to the brink of extinction themselves. The Voraxians knew that our reverence for humanity was our greatest strength. Xylov had told Prescott, his voice tinged with a haunting sorrow. By destroying your people, they sought to shatter our resolve and our will to fight. It was a tactic that nearly succeeded. Prescott shuddered as he listened to the grim recounting, his mind reeling at the scale of the atrocities committed against his own kind. He couldn't help but wonder how humanity had managed to emerge victorious from such a seemingly hopeless situation. The answer, it seemed, lay in the actions of a small but determined contingent of human warriors who had answered the Exetherians' desperate pleas for aid. Against all odds, these brave individuals had fought alongside their alien allies, their courage and tenacity inspiring the Exetherians to rally and ultimately turn the tide of the conflict. It was your people's intervention that saved us, Captain, Xylov had said, his eyes shining with a mixture of gratitude and reverence. Without the sacrifice and heroism of those human warriors, the Exetherian civilization would have been wiped from existence. As Prescott and his senior officers pored over the meticulously documented historical records, they were struck by the sheer magnitude of the Exetherians' debt to humanity. It was a debt that had been etched into the very fabric of their society, a sacred trust that had become the foundation of their unwavering policy of non-interference with human affairs. We will never, under any circumstances, allow harm to come to your people, Xylov had vowed. Humanity is off limits, Captain. Your kind are the most precious beings in the galaxy to us, and we will do whatever it takes to protect you. It was a promise that filled Prescott with a sense of both gratitude and unease, For while he was deeply humbled by the Cytherians' reverence, he couldn't help but wonder what would happen if their civilization were to face another existential threat, one that might once again put human lives at risk. As if in answer to his unspoken question, the Endeavor's sensors detected a sudden influx of activity in the distant reaches of Cytherian space. Philof's features hardened as he received the troubling news. "The Varaxians have returned, Captain," he announced grimly. "Their armada has breached our outer defenses, and they are intent on finishing what they started centuries ago." Prescott felt a chill run down his spine. "What does this mean for us, Zylov? For my crew and the humans under our protection?" The Cytherian leader's expression was a mix of resolve and anguish. "It means, Captain, that we find ourselves in an impossible situation. We cannot, in good conscience, engage the Varaxians in open warfare, not when your people may be caught in the crossfire, and yet, to stand by and allow our civilization to be destroyed." Zylov trailed off, his fists clenching in frustration. "The Cytherians will not fire a single shot that may endanger a human life, but without your aid, we may not have the strength to repel the Varaxian assault." Prescott's mind raced, trying to find a way to reconcile the competing priorities. He knew that the Cytherians' reverence for humanity was as much a burden as it was a blessing. And now, with a new threat looming, that burden threatened to become an insurmountable obstacle. "Zylov, I promise you that we will do everything in our power to assist in the defense of your world," Prescott said, his voice firm. "But I cannot, in good conscience, put my crew at risk. There must be another way, a way to protect both our civilizations without sacrificing human lives." The Cytherian leader's eyes widened with a glimmer of hope. "Perhaps, Captain, there is a solution that neither of us has considered yet, a bold gambit that could turn the tide of this conflict and preserve the lives of your people." Prescott leaned forward, his attention riveted. "I'm listening, Zylov. What do you have in mind?" As the two leaders delved into a heated discussion, the fate of both their civilizations hung in the balance. The Cytherians' unwavering commitment to protecting humanity was about to be put to the ultimate test. The news of the Varaxian armada's return to Cytherian space sent shockwaves through the U.S. Endeavor's crew. After learning of the Cytherians' harrowing past and their deep-seated reverence for humanity, the thought of another devastating conflict was almost too much to bear. Captain Prescott paced the length of the Endeavor's bridge, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew that the Cytherians would not engage the Varaxians in open warfare, not if there was any chance of human lives being put at risk. And yet, to simply stand by and watch the Cytherian civilization crumble went against everything Prescott and his crew believed in. "There has to be another way," Prescott muttered, his brow furrowed in deep concentration. Zylov said they were considering a bold gambit, something that could turn the tide of the conflict without endangering humans. But what could that be? The captain turned to his first officer, Commander Hernandez, her expression equally grim. "Olivia, I need you to assemble a team of our most experienced and capable officers. We need to figure out a way to assist the Cytherians without sacrificing any human lives." Hernandez nodded, her jaw set with determination. "Right away, Captain. I'll have them report to the briefing room immediately." As Prescott's senior staff gathered, the weight of the situation hung heavy in the air. Lieutenant Rayleigh, still reeling from Astra's revelations about the Cytherians' past, spoke up first. "Sir, if the Cytherians are so adamant about not harming humans, even in the face of their own destruction, then perhaps we could find a way to leverage that to our advantage. Maybe there's a way for us to actively assist in their defense without putting our own people at risk." Prescott's eyes widened, a glimmer of hope flickering in his gaze. "That's an interesting idea, Jack. Go on." Rayleigh straightened in his chair, his expression resolute. "Well, sir, we know that the Varaxians specifically targeted human settlements in their last conflict with the Cytherians. What if we were to embed a small team of highly skilled human warriors within the Cytherian defense forces?" The other officers exchanged glances, the implications of Rayleigh's proposal sinking in. "You mean, use human lives as a deterrent against the Voraxians?" Nguyen asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. Rayleigh nodded firmly. "Exactly. The Exetherians have made it clear that they will not fire a single shot that could endanger a human. So if they had our people integrated into their defensive lines, the Voraxians would be forced to think twice before attacking." Prescott considered the idea, his fingers drumming against the table. "It's a bold plan, Rayleigh, I'll give you that. But are you sure your team would be willing to put themselves in such a vulnerable position?" The young lieutenant's gaze hardened. "With all due respect, sir, I'm certain they would. Humanity owes the Exetherians a debt we can never fully repay. If this is the way we can help save their civilization, then I know my people will step up to the challenge." Hernandez cleared her throat, her expression thoughtful. "It's an interesting concept, but we'd need to work out the logistics. How would we coordinate with the Exetherian forces? And what happens if the Voraxians somehow manage to breach our defenses?" Prescott held up a hand, silencing the room. "Those are all valid concerns, and we'll need to address them. But right now, I want you all to start brainstorming ways to make this plan work. Rayleigh, you'll be in charge of assembling the team. Only the best of the best. Nguyen, I want you to start liaising with the Exetherian technical staff. See if we can integrate our systems with theirs." The crew snapped to attention, their faces set with determination. "Aye, sir," they responded in unison. As the officers dispersed to carry out their assignments, Prescott turned his gaze towards the view screen, where the distant stars twinkled with an ominous light. The fate of two civilizations now rested on their shoulders, and the stakes had never been higher. "Hold on, Xyloth," Prescott murmured, his resolve hardening. "We may have a way to save your people, but it's going to take everything we've got." In the Exetherian capital, Xyloth pored over the latest intelligence reports, his expression etched with worry. The Voraxian armada was closing in, and the Exetherians' defensive capabilities were stretched to the breaking point. "We cannot allow this to happen again," Xyloth muttered, his fists clenching in frustration. "Not after what they did to our human allies. We must find a way to stop them, no matter the cost." Just then, a young Exetherian scientist named Astra hurried into the chamber, her eyes shining with a mixture of urgency and hope. "Xyloth, I have news from the human Captain Prescott," she announced breathlessly. "They believe they have a plan, one that could turn the tide of the battle without endangering a single human life." Xyloth's brow furrowed, his gaze searching Astra's face. "A plan? Speak, child. What have they proposed?" Astra's lips curled into a determined smile. "They wish to embed a team of their most skilled warriors within our own defensive forces, as a deterrent against the Voraxians, who will not dare to attack if it means risking human lives." Xyloth's eyes widened, a glimmer of hope igniting within him. "Then we must make haste, Astra. Summon the council and inform them of this bold gambit. The fate of our civilization may very well rest upon its success." As the Exetherian leader hurried to prepare for the impending confrontation, a sense of cautious optimism began to take hold. Perhaps, with the aid of their human allies, the Exetherians could finally put an end to the Voraxian threat, and in doing so, cement a bond between their two civilizations that would last for generations to come. Time was of the essence as the crew of the U.S. Endeavour worked tirelessly to implement their bold plan. Under the guidance of Lieutenant Rayleigh, a team of the most skilled and experienced human warriors was assembled, each one driven by a deep sense of purpose and a desire to repay the debt owed to the Exetherians. As the Voraxian armada drew ever closer, Prescott and his officers engaged in a flurry of frantic negotiations with Xyloth and the Exetherian leadership. The integration of the human forces into the aliens' defensive lines was a delicate and complex process, requiring meticulous coordination and the sharing of sensitive tactical information. "We're asking a lot of your people, Xyloth," Prescott acknowledged, his brow furrowed with concern. Placing our warriors on the front lines, where they could become targets, goes against the very core of your beliefs. Psylocke's expression was grave, but his voice remained resolute. I understand your concern, Captain, but we have no choice. The Voraxians must be stopped, and if this is the only way to protect both our civilizations, then so be it. The Exitherian leader paused, his gaze locking with Prescott's. You have my solemn vow that we will do everything in our power to ensure the safety of your people. They will be integrated seamlessly into our defenses, and we will fight alongside them to the last. Prescott nodded, a hint of a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. I know you will, Xyloth, and I have complete faith that my crew will rise to the occasion. They're the best of the best, and they're ready to put their lives on the line for your people. As the final preparations were made, the human warriors found themselves awed by the scale and sophistication of the Scytherian defensive network. Towering energy shields, advanced weapon systems, and a legion of skilled alien combatants stood ready to meet the Voraxian onslaught. Riley, leading the human contingent, felt a mixture of trepidation and determination as he surveyed the battlefield. All right, listen up, he barked, his voice carrying a sense of authority. We may be the last line of defense, but we're also the most important. The Exitherians won't fire a single shot that might endanger one of us, so we have to make sure we hold our ground no matter what. The assembled warriors nodded, their faces set with resolve. They knew the stakes were high, and the possibility of not returning home weighed heavily on their minds. But the thought of the Scytherians falling victim to the same atrocities that had nearly destroyed them centuries ago was too much to bear. Today, we fight not just for the Exitherians, but for all of humanity, Rayleigh continued, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. We're the heroes they never got to be, the ones who will ensure that the sacrifices of our ancestors are not forgotten. So let's show these Voraxian bastards what we're made of. A cheer rose up from the human warriors, their spirits buoyed by Rayleigh's impassioned words. As they took their positions alongside the Exitherian forces, a sense of unity and purpose filled the air, a palpable connection forged in the face of impending doom. On the Endeavor's bridge, Prescott watched the unfolding events with a mixture of pride and trepidation. He knew that the success or failure of this gambit would determine the fate of not just the Exitherians, but potentially all of humanity. May the gods be with them, he murmured, his fingers clenching into fists as the first wave of Voraxian ships came into view. The battle that followed was a cacophony of energy blasts, explosions, and the clash of alien technology. The Exitherians, their formidable defenses bolstered by the human warriors, fought with a desperate ferocity, unwilling to let their civilization be razed a second time. Riley and his team were at the forefront of the engagement, their training and expertise proving invaluable as they carved a path through the Voraxian onslaught. The alien invaders, confronted by the unexpected human presence, hesitated, their resolve faltering in the face of this unexpected obstacle. But the respite was fleeting, and soon the Voraxians regrouped, their attacks intensifying with each passing moment. The Exitherian shields began to falter, and Rayleigh knew that the time had come to make their final stand. Hold the line, he shouted, his voice barely audible over the din of battle. We can't let them through, no matter what. The human warriors, their numbers dwindling, fought with a tenacity born of desperation. They knew that the fate of two civilizations rested on their shoulders, and they would not falter, not as long as there was breath in their bodies. As the Endeavor's crew watched the unfolding battle from afar, Prescott felt his heart ache with a mix of pride and anguish. Come on, you stubborn bastards, he whispered, his knuckles white with tension. Don't let us down. The fate of the Exitherians, and perhaps all of humanity, hung in the balance, and the final outcome remained uncertain. The battle for survival had begun, and the stakes had never been higher. The battle raged on, the skies above the Exitherian homeworld alive with the thunderous exchange of energy blasts and the deafening roar of alien starships. From his vantage point on the Endeavor's bridge, Captain Prescott watched with a mixture of dread and cautious hope as the human and Exetherian forces fought with desperate determination to hold back the Voraxian onslaught. Riley and his team of human warriors were at the forefront of the engagement, their skills and training honed to a razor's edge as they carved a path through the enemy lines. The Voraxians, confronted by this unexpected obstacle, hesitated, their confidence visibly shaken by the tenacity and ferocity of the human fighters. "They're holding them back, Xyloth," Prescott reported, his voice tinged with a hint of cautious optimism. "Your people and my crew are fighting as one, and the Voraxians seem to be struggling to maintain their momentum." Xyloth's expression remained grim, his eyes fixed on the unfolding battle. "I am relieved to hear it, Captain, but I fear this is only a temporary respite. The Voraxians will regroup, and their sheer numbers may eventually overwhelm us." Prescott nodded, his jaw set with determination. "Then we'll have to find a way to tip the scales in our favor. Is there anything else we can do to support your forces?" The Exetherian leader's brow furrowed as he pondered the question. "There may be one possibility, Captain, but it would require an extraordinary display of courage and sacrifice from your people." Prescott leaned forward, his attention riveted. "I'm listening, Xyloth. Whatever it is, I know my crew will step up to the challenge." Xyloth's gaze hardened, a glimmer of resolve shining in his eyes. The Voraxians are driven by a singular goal, the complete annihilation of the Exetherian civilization. They will not rest until they have achieved that objective, and they will stop at nothing to do so. He paused, his expression darkening. "But if they were to face the prospect of harming your kind, their resolve may falter. The Voraxians know all too well the consequences of targeting humans, and they may hesitate to risk incurring our wrath again." Prescott's eyes widened as he understood the implications. "You're suggesting that we embed even more of our people within your defensive lines, not just as a deterrent, but as active combatants." Xyloth nodded solemnly. "It is a grave and dangerous proposition, Captain, and I do not make it lightly. But if we are to have any hope of turning the tide of this battle, we may have no other choice." Prescott's mind raced as he considered the implications. He knew that asking his crew to put themselves in such a vulnerable position went against every instinct he possessed as a commander. And yet, he also knew that the fate of the Exetherian civilization hung in the balance, and with it, the future of humanity itself. "Give me some time to discuss this with my officers, Xyloth," Prescott said, his voice steady. "I need to be certain that my people are willing to take on this level of risk." Xyloth inclined his head in understanding. "Of course, Captain. I will await your decision. Time, however, is not on our side." As Prescott gathered his senior staff in the Endeavor's briefing room, the weight of the decision they faced was palpable. Rayleigh, his uniform singed, and his face etched with the strain of battle, spoke up first. "Captain, I know what you're going to ask of us, and I can tell you without a doubt that my team is ready to do whatever it takes to help the Exetherians. We owe them everything, and we won't let them down." Nguyen, her expression torn between trepidation and resolve, nodded in agreement. "I'm with Rayleigh, sir. If this is what it takes to turn the tide of the battle, then count me in. I'll do whatever is necessary to protect the Exetherians and our own people." Prescott studied the faces of his officers, their determination shining through the fatigue and the strain. He knew that what he was about to ask of them was nothing short of a suicide mission, but he also knew that they would answer the call without hesitation. "Very well," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We'll do it. Rayleigh, you and your team will spearhead the assault, with the full support of the Exetherian forces. Nguyen, I need you to coordinate the integration of our systems and weapons with theirs. We need to make sure that every advantage is on our side." The assembled officers nodded, their faces set with grim determination. They knew the stakes, and they were willing to risk everything to ensure the survival of the Exetherians and the future of their own people. As the preparations were set in motion, Prescott could only hope that the gamble they were about to undertake would pay off. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and the final outcome remained uncertain. The battle raged on, a maelstrom of energy beams, the roar of alien engines, and the desperate cries of combatants on both sides. Riley and his team of human warriors had thrown themselves into the fray, their weapons blazing as they fought alongside the Exetherian forces to stem the tide of the Voraxian onslaught. From the bridge of the Endeavor, Prescott watched the unfolding conflict with a mixture of pride and anguish. He knew that the fate of two civilizations now rested on the shoulders of his crew, and the stakes had never been higher. "Status report," he barked, his gaze fixed on the view screen. Nguyen's fingers danced across her console, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The Exetherian shields are holding, but they're being pushed to the limit. We're inflicting significant damage on the Voraxian fleet, but their numbers just keep coming." Prescott's jaw tightened. "And our people? How are they faring?" Nguyen's expression darkened. "Casualties are mounting, sir. Rayleigh's team is fighting like demons, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. I don't know how much longer they can hold out." The captain let out a frustrated growl. "Damn it. We need to tip the scales in our favor, and fast. Have you integrated our systems with the Exetherians as I ordered?" "Aye, sir," Nguyen replied. "The weapons and defensive systems are sensed. We're providing real-time tactical support, but it may not be enough." Prescott's gaze hardened with determination. "Then it's time to unleash our trump card. Open a channel to Xyloth." Moments later, the Exetherian leader's image appeared on the view screen, his expression grim but resolute. "Captain Prescott, I sense your people are in dire need of assistance," Xyloth said, his voice tinged with concern. Prescott nodded. "That's an understatement, Xyloth. Our human warriors are fighting with everything they've got, but the Voraxians are relentless. We need to do something drastic, and we need to do it now." Xyloth's brow furrowed. "I sense you have a plan, Captain. What do you propose?" Prescott took a deep breath. "We're going to turn the Voraxians' own fear against them. I want you to coordinate your forces to focus their attacks on the Voraxian command ships. Once those are neutralized, the rest of their fleet will be thrown into chaos." Xyloth's eyes widened with understanding. "And with our human allies embedded within the Exetherian lines, the Voraxians will be forced to choose between continuing their assault or risking the annihilation of their most precious targets." "Exactly," Prescott said, his lips curling into a grim smile. "They won't dare to fire a single shot that might endanger a human life. We have them right where we want them." Xyloth inclined his head, his expression resolute. "Then we shall put your plan into action, Captain. The Exetherians will strike with all the fury of 1,000 suns, and the Voraxians will tremble in the face of our wrath." As the channel closed, Prescott turned to his crew, his eyes burning with determination. "You heard the man, people. Let's show these alien bastards what we're made of. Nguyen, relay the coordinates of the Voraxian command ships to the Exetherian forces. Riley, I need you and your team to hold the line at all costs. This is our one and only chance." The officers snapped to attention, their faces alight with a renewed sense of purpose. "Aye, aye, sir," they responded in unison. And so the battle raged on, with the Exetherians unleashing a devastating barrage of firepower upon the Voraxian command ships. The alien invaders, faced with the prospect of harming their most revered targets, hesitated, their resolve faltering in the face of this unexpected onslaught. Riley and his team, their numbers dwindling but their spirits unbroken, fought with a ferocity that defied all odds. They knew that the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and they were determined to see this through to the bitter end. As the Voraxian fleet began to crumble under the relentless assault, a cheer rose up from the Exetherian ranks, their voices joined by the hoarse cries of the human warriors. Victory was within their grasp, and the once unthinkable had become a reality. On the Endeavor's bridge, Prescott watched the unfolding events with a mixture of relief and pride. He knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, but the bond between the human and Cytherian civilizations had been forged in the crucible of war, and it would stand the test of time. As the last of the Varaxian ships retreated, their tattered remnants fleeing into the depths of space, Xyloth's image once again appeared on the view screen. The ex-Cytherian leader's expression was one of profound gratitude and reverence. "Captain Prescott," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "your people have saved us, once again. The ex-Cytherian civilization owes you and your crew a debt that can never be repaid. We are forever in your debt." Prescott smiled, his eyes shining with a mixture of relief and humility. "The honor is ours, Xyloth. We are proud to have stood beside you in this fight, and we look forward to a future of continued cooperation and friendship between our two peoples." As the Endeavor and the ex-Cytherian forces began the arduous task of rebuilding and securing their shared future, Prescott knew that the bonds forged in the heat of battle would endure for generations to come. The ex-Cytherians' unwavering reverence for humanity had been the key to their salvation, and it would be the foundation upon which a new era of cooperation and understanding would be built. The chapter of the Varaxian threat had been closed, but the story of the Cytherians and their human allies was only just beginning.